Hey there, and welcome to What's the Story? We're an inquisitive bunch of hosts on a mission to uncover stories about faith and courage from everyday people. In doing that, we get the privilege of chatting with amazing guests and have the opportunity to delve into their faith journey, the hurdles they've overcome, and the life lessons they've learned along the way. If you enjoy our podcast, don't forget to subscribe and sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, whatsthestorypodcast.com. It's your direct line to the latest episodes and detailed show notes delivered straight to your inbox. What's the Story is brought to you by Crowd Church, who fully understand that stepping into a traditional church might not be everyone's cup of joe. Crowd Church provides a digital sanctuary, a safe space to explore the Christian faith where you can engage in meaningful conversations rather than just simply spectating. So whether you're new to the Christian faith or in search of a new church family, visit crowd.church. And if you have any questions, just drop them an email to hello@crowd.church. They would love to connect with you. And now, let's meet your host and our special guest for today.
Welcome to What's the Story. Today I am chatting with Zeeshan Laaldin, who is actually the infamous, maybe notorious is maybe a better word, brother of Sadaf Bainon, who is part of the What's the Story team here. You will have heard her interviewing people. And in fact, her story is also part of the archives. So this, Zeeshan, is the first time that we've had a brother and sister on the show, which I'm excited about because, frankly, we just want you here to spill the beans about Sadaf. So we're going to get into all of that. It's worth saying that he lives in Sydney, Australia with his wife, Jessica, and 3 kids. He is the founder of One to Another, which is a relief and development organization working in Pakistan and now also works for Anglican Aid in Sydney, Australia. It is late in the day for you, so I'm aware of the time zone difference, but thanks for joining us from, halfway around the world from Sydney, one of the most amazing cities on the planet. I love Sydney. But it's great to have you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's nice to be here.
Even this late at night.
Yep.
So it's true to say, Zeeshan, that your beautiful sister sort of set you up for this, didn't she?
100%. Well, she kind of pushed me kind of hard into it. wasn't really a nudge. It was more of a do it. but yeah, no, I'm grateful because I did listen to her one and it was great. So yeah, I'm excited.
Good, man. Well, it's good to have you here. And so, how long have you been living in Australia? How long have you been in the land down under?
Just over 2 years now.
Okay. How are you finding it in Sydney?
Yeah, it's a fun city. It's beautiful. We really enjoyed it. The kids have really adjusted well. Work is great. Lots of cricket.
Lots of cricket.
Yeah, it's a wonderful.
That's important.
It's a wonderful. Absolutely, it's been a really great change for us.
Yeah. Did you find it hard because you moved over to Sydney from Pakistan, right? Where you'd obviously lived a fair chunk of your life, to be fair. Now, did you find the move hard? Was it a culture shock, or was it actually pretty straightforward?
No, I think there was a lot of things that I personally had to deal with, but I would say that I was, I guess because I was prepared for it being a new experience, I think I adjusted pretty well. On the other hand, my wife, who is Australian but has hardly lived here, in her mind, she thought she was coming home, but yeah, I think she's had to struggle more than the kids and myself. Wow. To adjust back, for her to adjust back to life here. So yeah, it's been interesting. I think the kids adjusting and getting, their lives together with school and all the extracurricular stuff they do. I think because that happened so seamlessly, I think that allowed me to also kind of be able to adjust a lot better than I expected to. So Yeah.
No doubt. But it's interesting you say that Jessica, your wife, found it almost harder to adjust going back home than you guys did
Mm,
going to a new country in a lot of ways.
mhm. Yeah, I think for her it was she had expectations,
Mm.
which maybe weren't realistic after so many years abroad. Whereas we came with just a, you know, let's see what happens kind of attitude. So
With shorts and a t-shirt,
yeah,
some flip-flops, and away you go, right? And a
yeah,
subscription to the cricket. Uh, and for those of you listening outside of, the empire or the former empire, cricket is one of those sports where it's a bit like baseball in a lot of ways. You either like it or you don't. I don't think there's any in
mhm,
between, right? You if you like it,
yeah,
you really, really like it.
yes, and I really really like it.
No doubt. Did you grow up playing cricket? Was that all part of the deal, or was that the sport that you did?
No, I actually didn't. I went to a kind of a missionary school in kind of the foothills of the Himalayas, and we didn't actually play cricket at school. So for me, cricket was very much it was more about the fact that it represented Pakistan for me, and it gave
Mm,
me an identity in that. And so whenever there was a series against some other country like that, that was kind of the passion. That's where the passion came from. And
mm,
I actually, for a long time, preferred watching it over playing it.
mm.
It's only now that my son plays it that, and I get to play in organized cricket here in Australia, that it's actually something that I like to do. But from the start, it was more just following it and following Pakistan and
Yeah.
being obsessed with it, and not eating for days if we lost to India or something.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, that's a
And
bit
that's a
extreme.
bit much.
Yeah, a
Yes,
little bit extreme. I'm a big Liverpool Football Club fan, so I follow Liverpool.
mm,
We're doing a time of the recording. We're top of the league. When this comes out, who knows? But we're doing well. So I do follow football. So I get it's good to follow a sport thing, and I understand. From a national point of view, there are countries are good at certain things, aren't they? So
mm,
England likes to pretend it's good at everything. We have a team for
mm,
everything, which it really isn't. But if the England football team is playing, I'm there. If I tend to not get involved with cricket unless it is like the World Cup, kind
mm,
of England's playing, and especially New Zealand, and more so Pakistan, I suppose, more recently, because Sadaf's in the office, and if Pakistan are playing, the
mm,
cricket's on and all that sort of stuff, so that they're quite fun. So
mm,
I totally
mm.
get that. Not eating for days, though. I no.
I think that was a bit of a stretch, but you get what
Yeah,
my
yeah, I do.
feelings. Yeah.
Yeah. No, some people take it very seriously. So you grew up in the foothills of the Himalayas, which just sounds very romantic, and almost like Bear Grylls' dream, isn't it? It's kind of like I'm at the foothills of the Himalayas, guys, and I can just see
Mm,
the sort of the adventure calling. Was it really like
mm.
that?
Absolutely. On a clear day, we could see some of the highest peaks in the world.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah, it was amazing. I didn't appreciate it as much when I was there growing up, but
Mhm.
um, as I've grown older and kind of revisited and seen what there was, and looking back at, the childhood that I had, I'm really, really blessed to have had that experience.
Yeah, no doubt. So did you ever get into the climbing of the mountains, or were you just firmly at the bottom and that's fine?
I was very much happy to be in the plains while I was at school, but
Hmm.
yeah, no, I was never really into trekking and hiking and stuff like that. But just a couple years ago, I went up as far north as I've been with a bunch of friends before we left Pakistan. Actually, it was amazing.
Mm,
That the valley where we were in was higher than where my school was, and our
right.
school was at 7,000 feet. So, it's amazing. It's
Wow.
absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, it sounds stunning. Sounds lovely, and I know Sadaf raves about that sort of the part of the world, and it's definitely on my bucket list of sort of, places to go and view and just be in awe at those
Mm,
sort of landscapes. I find that when I go to those quite I mean, not quite the same, but near here we have Snowdonia, we have the Lake District, and just the open expanse with the rolling hills.
Mm,
For me, I feel in those spaces the closest to God. I don't know why. It's that element of
mm,
nature where you just feel the element of the divine. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you guys
mm.
had that growing up, but yeah, I can see why it's quite stunning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I recall standing under one of the big mountains and just looking up, like we're on the road right below it, and it's just really,
Yeah.
really amazing. Like it really puts a lot of things into perspective. And
Mm.
yeah, it does. I get what you mean about, seeing the power of God and His majesty in that. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. So you went to a ministry, a missionary school in the
Mm.
foothills of the Himalayas. I mean, there's a calling right there. Would you like to go teach in a missionary school in the foothill of the Himalayas? Um, it feels like it's kind of up there with, would you like to go teach in a missionary school that's in the Maldives? It's just this beautiful part of the world. Uh, what was it like? Is that where you became a Christian growing up in that school? Was that? I mean, we
Yeah.
know Sadaf sort of grew up within a Christian family, but for those that haven't heard that show, maybe just tell your story a little bit. The family growing up, your own
Mm.
sort of journey to faith.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, as sort of has probably mentioned, grew up in a Christian home, went to this missionary school. I went pretty much since preschool. So I mean, I didn't know anything else. Whereas I think my
Mm,
sisters experienced a bit of Pakistani schools at some stage early on. But yeah, so I kind of knew all the Sunday school stories. I'd grown up with that. I knew all the songs, and and kind of had that upbringing at home as well as in school as well as in dorm life. So like it was, and for me, looking back at that time, I'm so grateful to God for the opportunities that He blessed me with, because yeah, I think it's made me who I am today, and without that, I don't think
mm,
I would be where I am. But yeah, so I kind of just went through school for many years thinking that I was a Christian, and I knew so much about. I even like I was actually pretty good at memorizing scripture. I could like memorize chapters and chapters of it in school. But
oh wow.
and so I had that in me. But it wasn't until the beginning of my senior year, year 12, that where a lot of my good friends had graduated and their families were leaving Pakistan and they were going back to their home countries. And it was strange because, with some of them, you'd spent, 12, 13 years with them in this little
Mm,
bubble. And they were almost like your brothers.
yeah.
And so all of a sudden they're leaving, and it's like, what do you do? And it was really, really hard for me to see some of them leave, and
Yeah.
not knowing, if we'd ever meet again or what. So I mean, looking back, it seemed maybe it was a bit over the top, but at the time, I really, I just was like, I don't know how to function, and so I was going through this pretty low time in my life, and um, year 12 had started after a bit of a break, and just wasn't feeling it. Didn't want to be there. It's kind of, just like kind of stuck in the past, I guess,
Hmm.
and yeah, and I remember my dad calling and saying, not that he knew, I don't think he was aware of any of this, but he just said, look, there's one of the old missionary ladies that used to work at the hospital where I grew up with my dad, where he was the director, was visiting again. Her name was Agnes Hislop. Um, and
That's a great name.
he's like, what?
It's a very, very good. Was she English? Because it sounds like
Yes.
quintessentially English, that name.
Yeah, she was English. And so yeah, for some reason, it was quite a ways away, and I didn't have a car or anything. I was in boarding at the time, and I had a mountain bike. So I got on my mountain bike and I went up and met her, and I don't know, just started chatting about, getting quite into a lot of detail about my personal life and where I was at, and it was just incredible how I was just able to just like let so much out. And I remember her saying, like, well, you should try sharing all this with God. And I was like, but he already knows it. It's in my heart. He knows, he can read my mind or whatever. But yeah, so I finished up with her and I went back, and those words just kept bothering me about sharing it with God. And so I went up onto the roof of our dorm and sat on top of these massive metal water tanks. And it was a clear evening. I could see all the stars and like the tree line in the dark. And yeah, I remember it very, very clearly. And I probably spent, I don't know, maybe an hour, just under an hour, just like sharing everything, just speaking to God in a way I had never had in the past. It wasn't like this official prayer, it was just me talking to God. And I think that was the beginning of my relationship with God. And I think all those years of that foundation that had been there, like I knew what he was, but I don't think I fully understood him and what it meant to be in a relationship with him. And so I think that's where it started. And I just felt a sense of peace after that conversation with God. And within a few weeks, like I felt my attitude towards where I was at the time change. I felt much lighter, much happier. I started to enjoy those that were around me instead of avoiding them and whatnot. And and I think that was the first time I experienced God working in my life in a personal way. And that's when I realized that, there's something that I'd been missing all these years. Like this is what it's really about. And so I think that was the kind of the beginning of my journey with my personal journey with Jesus.
That's cool, man. It's just that whole. How old again were you at this point?
17, 18.
Yeah. So I was about 18 when I became a Christian, and just this whole idea of actually pouring. We use this phrase a lot in church. It's a very churchy phrase, actually, pouring your heart out to God, in the sense of just talking to God in a very real, authentic way, and actually being comfortable with that is one of those things that I think surprises people that they can do, And so here you are, 17, 18, just pouring out your heart to God. I'm curious, did God say anything back, or was it just a case of I'm just going for this?
Yeah, I don't think I felt him speaking back in that sense to me at that moment. But when I saw things change, just even in my own mind, the way I was looking at life, I knew it was something that wasn't of me. It was something that I always put back to that moment in that conversation. So it wasn't, I wouldn't say that it was that clear at the time, but I always remember when something happened and I was like, what? That's crazy. That shouldn't happen. I'd always take it back to that moment where, where I'd had that conversation with God. So I knew it was significant for me and at that time. And I knew it was special. I wouldn't say I heard his voice at that time.
It's interesting though, isn't it? But it's the moment that you pinpoint where you go, no, this is where it sort of changed and kick-started for me. And actually what I'm hearing is that the moment of change for you was not from memorizing scripture, although it's obviously a very good thing to do, especially if you're one of my children listening. It's obviously very good to read the Bible and remember it. It wasn't to do with that. It was more to do with just being able to be real with God and to speak to him in that kind of way, and it transformed things for you. That's what I'm kind of hearing. It was, and it's interesting you're using this word relationship. So I'm in a relationship with God rather than just knowing about God. And I think many Christians would use that phraseology to try and explain, I suppose, to try and explain why or what it is they think or feel about God, why it's different. I don't just know about God. I kind of feel like I know him now. And I know he's always known me, but I feel like he now knows me. It's that kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right. I mean, I don't think, I feel like that was, because that was just the beginning, there was so much more that happened, and
Yeah.
to this day happens, that that learning and that experiencing God and understanding him and growing in my faith it's still happening. Like, yeah, but like you said, that moment where it went from, just knowing of him to actually experience him, I think that was the time.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I'm reminded of the prayer, the Apostle Paul prays this prayer in the Bible. It's recorded, I think, in the book of Ephesians, where he says, no, I think it's in the book of Romans. I pray you will know the length, the breadth, the depth, the height of God. I pray that you will know this. And when you look at the language, it's not knowledge just from, reading it in a book. It's like an experiential knowledge as well. It's like I can talk about Sharon, and I can talk about how I know she loves me, not because she wrote it down in a Valentine's card. Oh, that's just very nice, coming up to Valentine's Day. But because I've experienced that love every day since we've been married. And there's that joint thing, isn't there? And yeah, really powerful, man. Really powerful. So let's talk about challenges then. So you've been walking with God for a little while. And we're talking about this relationship with God. You were living in Pakistan. You have this relief organization over there, which you're heading up. You're sort of growing in your faith. Your wife's a Christian. I mean, I know the story a little bit, but I guess, spoiler alert, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, is it? There are things which you then have to face and deal with. So what are some of the big challenges that you've personally faced or that you face as a family that you sort of God's brought you through? I'm kind of curious to know what are some of the things there.
Yeah, I think I think the biggest challenge that I had to go through with my family, that includes my sisters and my wife and kids, and was my dad being diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 cancer, back in 2014. And so we're just, as a family, trying to cope with this. I was the only one in Pakistan in terms of my siblings at the time. And so when the diagnosis came in, my 3 sisters, as they could, started to come back. And I think Nosheen and Sadaf were back in the country. And I had actually gone, because the international airport at the time was about a 5-6 hour drive away. And so someone would have to go pick them up and bring them back. And so I had done that for those 2 sisters. And the flights randomly arrive at like 2 a.m. for some reason.
So you're very thankful for the 10-hour drive in the middle of the night. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. And so the truth is, for both of them, we drove back, arrived, got home at like 6 a.m. So probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but just wanted to get back. And with my 3rd sister arriving, my mom decided she wanted to go and she'd take the driver, and and so she went. I remember I had lunch with her before she left, and I remember saying goodbye and see you tomorrow type of thing. And she went off to pick up my sister, and I don't know, there was just something inside me that said, call her and find out if the drivers had a rest. I don't know. Something wasn't right. And so I called her at like 8 or 9 p.m. and I said, you're going to be going to the airport soon. Maybe I think they had to go at like 11 or 12. I was like, has the driver had a rest? Are you driving back? And she's like, yeah, he had a big rest, and we'll leave in a couple hours and we'll pick her up and we'll come home. I went to bed, but wasn't really asleep, and at 4:33 a.m. I get a call from the driver, and yeah, I figured out quite quickly what had happened, and he wasn't really speaking, but I could hear, and didn't know how bad it was. I tried to ask him, what's happening. It was a big accident, and I could hear my mom and my sister in the back, like, just it's tough to talk about because I still, it's very clear in my mind, but just the way they were crying it was painful. And it just got my mind thinking, because there was 3 little kids in the car. My sister's kids were there too. And so it's the middle of the night. You don't know what's going to happen. And one of my best friends who I grew up with in Pakistan, his name is Harun. He lived above me, and we worked together at one to another at that time. And I went out, woke him up. I was like, this has happened. I don't even know where they are, but I know they're between here and Lahore, so let's go. And he didn't say anything. Within 15 minutes of receiving that call, we were in the car. But I could go into a lot of detail, but basically my mom passed away in that car crash. My sister was very badly injured, and I think is still dealing with some of those injuries today. Her eldest daughter, was also very, very, very injured, broke both her legs, had her forehead kind of opened up, and it was pretty bad. And so I was in Lahore with them, and Nosh and Sadaf and my dad were in Multan when all this happened. And so it was just a really difficult time, and I can't express the feelings that were. It was just overwhelming. I don't think I could even process at the time what I was going through, but it was just absolutely strange, surreal to be there and looking at all this devastation. And I had a difficult choice to make, whether to go back with my mom's body or stay and be there for my sister and her kids. And I was like, if my niece wakes up, she's not gonna know she might recognize me, but she won't recognize anyone else. And so I think that was the thing that kept me in Lahore at the hospital. So yeah, I think, and then we went through, that was difficult, obviously, for my wife, and our kids were little at the time, but yeah, it wasn't an easy time. And then a year later, my father passed away, and my sisters had obviously gone back to their lives in Canada and the UK and whatnot, and obviously were talking to my dad every single day, but just weren't there physically. And my dad, kind of a year, he wasn't supposed to live as long as he did in the end, but he was with us for another year after my mom passed, and it was amazing to have that time with him. And my wife and I had then moved back into his home after my mom passed, so that we could be there and care for him and all. And so after my dad passed away, my sisters had all come back, and he passed away with all of us there. But kind of the last little while leading up to his death was pretty awful. I think there was a clash of kind of cultures, I guess, in terms of palliative care. The Pakistani way is very, what's the word? Like, you do everything you can to help them in that time. If they can't eat, then you basically force them to eat. Whereas my sisters were coming from a much more medical perspective, I guess, or a westernized perspective of that whole thing. And I think those two cultures clashed, and it wasn't pretty. And I was kind of sandwiched in between, but having been with Dad and saw his love for his siblings and seeing the way that they had cared for him, I just gravitated towards that and kind of created a wedge, I think, between myself and my sisters. And it wasn't, I don't think it was done, it just kind of happened. It wasn't, I didn't think through it properly. But I guess the aftermath was that Dad passed away, and I think within a week, 10 days, I think my sisters went back. And we didn't part well at all. They were hurt. I was hurt. I don't think for a long time, I don't even know, but I think for a long time, I didn't know if I'd even grieved properly for Dad because of all this external stuff.
Yeah.
And so you, as a Christian, that you'll see your parents again one day. They're believers. There's that confidence you have. And so as a Christian, I think death has a different meaning, it hurts obviously because they're physically not with you, but it's not the end of that relationship. But to have your sisters, who were like mothers to me, honestly, and still are to lose mom, dad, and then in a way them, but they're alive, was really difficult. My wife, she felt my pain, I think, more than anyone else. But yeah, I think that was probably the hardest thing that I've had to go through. And it wasn't just for a few months. It lasted for maybe 3 or 4 years, and it was difficult. I wanted a relationship with them. I think maybe they thought I didn't. It was complicated. And yeah, but I think going back to that topic of relationship, which I think is it keeps coming back to me in my life, the importance of it. I think thankfully, as a believer in Jesus, and as my sisters are still also believers in Jesus, I think we were able to, forgive each other. And I think that experience. I mean, I haven't seen Sadaf since this event. I haven't seen her for 10 years, physically, like been in the same space with her. Yeah. But I got the opportunity to meet 2 of my sisters, and I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time kind of hashing out some of these things with her. And I think for me, that was another time where I felt God's presence. There were things that were discussed and things that I wanted to like yell at them, in those moments of conversations that we had, but something held me back. And I felt, for the first time in my life, I felt the Holy Spirit in those moments. And to be able to spend a week in Canada with them, to walk away knowing that we're good, we love each other, we forgive each other, was everything. So yeah, I mean, I'm just so grateful to them for forgiving me. And yeah, because absolutely said and did many stupid things, but just it all comes down to Jesus, knowing him and being able to forgive because he forgave us, right?
Well, firstly, thank you for sharing. I mean, if to lose your mum like that, obviously your sisters and your sister and your nieces get injured, and then all because your dad's been diagnosed with cancer, everyone's flying in to see him, and it's a horror story in a lot of ways, and it and I'm listening to you talk about it, and then in the midst of that, to sort of have this sort of, I don't know if I'd use the word breakdown, but this sort of fallout, I suppose, with your sisters as well. And then you talk about forgiveness, as in you forgave them and they forgave you, and you know, spoiler alert, you're obviously getting on well with your sisters now, and Sadaf still feels the need to boss you around quite a lot, I would imagine. And you know that everything's back how it was in a lot of ways. But forgiveness isn't always easy. And forgiveness is not always straightforward. It can be quite messy, but I think it's one of those things which is a sort of a key thing to the Christian faith, right? And there are lots of benefits that come with forgiveness. It's always hard to do, but when you feel like you've forgiven somebody, actually, I think you tend to feel an awful lot better about life. Just walk us through that process for you guys. What did forgiveness look like? How did you have to wrestle with that?
After Dad died and my sisters left, I went through probably the darkest period of my life. Like, I couldn't sleep without drinking, and a lot. Like, for 3 months, like I lost the plot completely. And in that time, I think without Jess, I don't know. Yeah, probably it may have ended differently, but she was that rock, I think, that I needed, and that person that kept pointing me to God. So yeah, super grateful for her and the role that she's played, you know, in my life. But I think forgiveness, it was weird because we weren't in the same country. You know, I wasn't able to walk over to their house, knock, knock, I want to talk. It wasn't like that. And so just getting the courage to even connect on a video call because you're not sure what they're thinking. There's no communication at all. And so it took a really long time to get to that place. But I knew from the very beginning that there has to be a resolution of some sort, and I had to be able to forgive and be forgiven. Otherwise, I wasn't going to last. I don't think I would have been able to survive. But forgiveness, I think, is very much an internal thing. I think for me, I had to come to a place where I was like, you know what matters more? Me being able to let go of the hurt that I feel I've been through, and then having a relationship with my sisters, what meant more, and that meant a lot more. That meant everything to me. And so I think part of those 3 or 4 years were me kind of like, I would go through like these angry phases of like I'd stay up in bed and I'd have this like 10-minute like monologue that I was like just shouting at them. And then there'd be times when I'd just be like, no, like that's not right. You know, and so it took a long time. It wasn't easy, as you said. But and I actually went to Canada to a friend's wedding. I didn't go to visit them.
Yeah.
I went somewhere else. And I was like, hey, I'm coming. Would you mind if I drop by, kind of thing? And obviously their arms were wide open. But it wasn't until we were physically, you know, together that I think being physically together allowed the forgiveness process to happen more easily, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're able to see expressions and feel emotion, and it's real. So I'm really glad that it didn't happen over a video call, or, you know, I think it was really necessary for the degree of pain that I was in to have it, you know, that much more real, to be there in person, to experience that. And it was, I felt so much lighter. I felt complete joy leaving Canada after that. Like it was just totally different. Wow. And yeah, I think there's a big difference between that and reconciliation. I think that is a different thing. I think it comes later, and that's something, I think that's what we're all in my mind, that's what I'm working through right now with them.
Yeah.
That takes time.
Yeah. Oh, powerful, man. I'm curious if I can just rewind just slightly. You said for 3 months you were in quite a dark place, drinking quite a lot. How was Jessica in all of this? Because this is your, in one sense, she's married into your family. These are your sisters. This is your mum. This is your dad. Life is not what it was. The man that she married is going through an insanely hard time. Probably doing stuff that she, if you were to ask her, I don't know, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I know if you were to ask my wife, she would not approve of me drinking heavily. That's for dang sure. And so I'm kind of curious, how did she deal with all of this?
Yeah, I think she was hurt as well. It wasn't, I think it wasn't just me that had kind of felt the pain of some of the stuff that went on. She was very much next to me and was hurt in her own ways. And equally was the instigator of hurt and pain for them. You know, it wasn't just a one way. So in a sense, because she felt similar things, I think she was able to really know what I felt. But I think she, being slightly outside of it, was able to kind of control it better than I could. And so I think she was, she just, for me, I think she being able to talk to her and it wasn't, I think in times like that, if you have someone that keeps reinforcing what negative thoughts you're having, which is in a way, which is kind of what you want, because you want to feel like you're right. But she didn't do that, even though she was also feeling that pain. And so I think there were moments when she would agree with me and was just as angry as I was, but in the long run, I think she was able to keep it much more, real, and was able to help me see that a lot more.
Wow. Sounds like a remarkable lady.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Funny, isn't it? I remember Smith Wigglesworth, the old preacher, he wrote, I remember this quote, he said about his wife, I think she was called Polly, yes. He said, "Everything I am under God, I owe to my dear wife, Polly." And I think the longer I'm married, the more I realize he's right. Do you know what I mean? That the longer I live, the more I realize everything I am under God, I owe to my dear wife, who has put up with a lot and seen me through a lot of things and has been an amazing person. What's also interesting listening to you talk is just how close you were as a family to your sisters, because I know, I don't know whether it's a Western thing, whether this again is a cultural thing, whether you just happen to be this way because you were living where you were in the situation you were. Sometimes people are close to their siblings. So some people listening to this will feel the pain of actually what it's like to be separated, or to have this sort of acrimony, I suppose, between you. But some people might be listening kind of going, I'm not like close to my brother or my sister,
Yeah, I think for us, for me, I'm 4 years younger than Salif. And so I'm youngest by quite a ways. And I think I was always spoiled by them and my parents. I was the only boy, and boys have a much higher value in Pakistan for families, which wasn't the case in our home. But no, I think, and then because I was in boarding, like I really only saw my mom and dad for maybe 4 months of the year, or 3 months of the year. The rest of the time I was in boarding, and I remember, from the age of 6 or 7 to be alone, away from your parents. And every time I was homesick or there was any problems, it was always those three, one of them or all of them, who would be by my bed comforting me, to help me get to sleep or whatever. So it was always close. It was more than a normal relationship that you would have with your siblings, because I needed them like I would need my mother as a child, And thankfully I think they love me in that way as well, and so it was always I always looked up to them, still do. Have a huge amount of respect and love for them, and whatever they said I would do, like this girl, okay, wear your clothes like this, okay. let us cut your hair, okay, like whatever it was. I just love them. And so I think our circumstances, the way we grew up, kind of maybe exaggerated it a bit more, but very, very close. And not just us, like our cousins, like super close. Like people look at us as cousins and be like, this is weird, like it's not normal. But I think that came, that loving like that came from my eldest sister, for me anyway. Like I saw the way she loved everyone. And I liked it, and I wanted to be like that. So
wow, it's powerful, man. And it's great that you had that, and I want it for my own kids, that they actually have strong relationships with each other. And it's nice when you see it. Ironically, it wasn't until I moved out that I started to get on really well with my brother. When we were both living at home, we would fight like cats and dogs. But interesting. I'm
pretty sure.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure if you asked Sadaf about her relationship with her other two sisters, it'd probably be the same. They probably got closer when they were further apart. I was so much younger that it was different for me. But I'm sure they had I know they had their dramas growing up as kids.
Oh, there's no doubt that three girls are going to have their dramas. But she always speaks very fondly of her family, and you kind of go, it's really cool that you guys were so close. What's the one lesson then out of all of this, out of all the stuff you've gone through, both as a family, in your sort of own walk with life? What's your one lesson, if you had, that God sort of taught you over this?
I think understanding the value of relationships that are in your life. I think, and this is not, I don't think this, I guess my experiences to a certain extent, but I've always felt that relationships matter. I think to my friends or my siblings, maybe I think of them too much, maybe, I don't know, in their minds, but it's always been like that from when I was a young kid. And I always wanted to, have or put my all into the relationships that were around me. And it probably wasn't healthy everywhere, but I think for me, I think that has been something that, as having experienced all this stuff with my sisters, and I've really grown to value the relationships that God has put me in. And I think it comes the little that I've thought about it. I think it comes from the fact that, God created us to be in his image. And I think that could mean a lot of things, but I think in one sense, it's that relationship. And, he, from the beginning of creation, he's ultimately wants a relationship with us. And, through sin and all, it kind of got messed up, and then he had a plan, and that was Jesus. And we have to have a relationship with Jesus to be saved. And it's so key in my mind. It's just so plain and simple that's such an important part to this walk. And I think the relationships that we have, we choose some and we don't choose others. We don't choose our family. But whatever it is, whatever those relationships are in this moment, in this time, that circle that's around you, I feel that they're all in some way mirroring my relationship with God.
Yeah.
They're challenging me in different ways. They're, at the end of the day, every relationship that I interact with is an opportunity for me as a person to become more Christ-like. Whether that's me with my son, whether it's with my wife, with, my sisters, or some friend or a colleague at work, or some uncle that, is old. Doesn't matter. Like, they're in my life for a reason. And I, as a Christian, it's my responsibility to give it my all, not pour everything, and within reason, if that makes sense. But they're all there for me to learn from, and to become, to learn the characteristics that Jesus has, and that I need in my life.
Fantastic. Listen, I'm aware of time. I have so many more questions. Thank you so much, man, for coming on and sharing your heart, and just really great to connect with you, and great family. Yeah, great heritage by the sounds of it. And I look forward to meeting your mum and dad one day, because I really look forward to meeting them. I think they're amazing people, given the family which they have. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to find out more, maybe about the project in Pakistan, the stuff that you do in the city, if they just want to connect, what's the best way to do that?
Probably email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will make sure that your email is linked in the show notes. We'll rather than spill it out on the air, we'll definitely make sure it's in the show notes. So do check that out if you want to reach out. But but thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And just like that, we've reached the end of another fascinating conversation. Crowd Church is a digital church, a community, a space to explore the Christian faith, and a place where you can contribute and grow. To find out more, check out www.crowd.church. And don't forget to subscribe to What's the Story on your favorite podcast app. We've got a whole lot of inspiring stories coming your way, and we really don't want you to miss any of them. What's the Story is the production of Crowd Church. Our fantastic team is made up of Anna Kettle, Matt Edmondson, Tanya Hutzalak, and myself, Sadaf Bainan. We work behind the scenes to bring these stories to life. Our theme song is the creative work of Josh Edmondson. If you're interested in the transcript or show notes, head over to our website, what'sthestorypodcast.com, and sign up for our weekly newsletters to get all this goodness delivered straight to your inbox. So that's all from us this week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.